Hello Internet! Today we're going to be talking about the internet and my own problematic relationship with it. Hi, my name's Max and I find myself addicted to social media. Genuinely. If you pick any addiction checklist and replace the whatever with social media, it fits. For example, compulsive use, neglecting life, withdrawal symptoms, mine is mostly anxiety, mood modification, tolerance, conflict, less so, preoccupation, and most importantly, failed attempts at cutting back. I cannot stop. Without wanting to sound too dramatic, this is my story. This is for people who also struggle with social media. This is also for people who just don't get how people can get so drawn in, and also for parents, because you never think it's going to happen to you. As a kid, as a parent, I've been on the internet since 2007, which is nearly 20 years. It started with things like Pixo. I did miss the MySpace craze, thankfully. I dread to think what that would have been like. Pixo was an early 2000s website builder, complete with glitter graphics, 3D animations, and cyberbullying. Then we also had Bebo, which was more cringe, more cyberbullying, and then Blogger, Blogspot, whatever it was called and is called now. It's still live. My old blogs are still live, unfortunately, and I can't do anything about it other than cringe. Teenage friendships can be tumultuous at the best of times, but I think making snarky blog posts about each other and whether you've copied a font or a layout or a colour, that doesn't help. But that was just the beginning, and those things quickly faded into the internet Hall of Fame, Hall of Time. The big problem really was forums and Facebook. So my dad was big into forums. So when I was using the internet, I thought, forums, great idea. And kind of, they were. So I'm going to talk about forums first. They are the smaller problem, so we'll get that out of the way first. But it's still a problem. There was really only one forum that caused me problems, and it wasn't even the forum itself. It was the people on it, I guess. So what do you do in 2009? And you are a pagan who's just come out of the broom closet. Nobody understands you, you don't have access to as many books as you'd like. You turn to the internet. And where does the internet take you? To Pagan Forum. Now Pagan Forum was a wonderful hearth of knowledge, friendship, knowledge exchange, ideas. It was wonderful. And I did genuinely connect with lots of great people. I could read posts in like the general discussion of niche topics and get ideas, resources, articles, videos, all kinds of really useful things. But they also had a chat room. And I think letting a 13, 14-year-old me loose on a chat room, not great. What could go wrong? Lots. So here's where the Facebook crossover comes in. In 2009, I set up my Facebook profile, which is still the one I have today, so looking at Facebook memories is an everyday dose of cringe. I would meet people in the Pagan Forum chat room and invite them over to Facebook so that we could talk more often. You see, this was in the days when you had like one family computer and there was like a computer desk or a computer room, and your access was sort of limited, so I could only really use this chat room when my dad wasn't home, and he would have pub quiz nights twice a week, so I could go on the forum and go on the chat room only twice a week, and I wanted to talk to my friends more than that. The forum only worked on the computer, and I could access Facebook on my Motorola Razr. You're welcome. So there we are, me, adult men, adult women as well. They were less problematic for obvious reasons. And me having unbridled access to the internet. Now, most of the guys that I met on Pagan Forum were genuinely cool people. I'm still friends with a whole bunch of them, and it was only ever knowledge exchange, friendship. It was a different time. That kind of friendship would not fly now. But the odd few became my friend and then started being really nice to me. And then the compliments would kind of change, and then they would confess their feelings for me and ask if I would be interested in a long-distance online relationship. And I was too young to know what a nonce was. I was the depressed bullied kid who was desperate for someone to just be nice for them. That's called grooming. FYI, that's how easy it happens. So I developed these awful sleeping habits where I was up until 2 a.m, 3 a.m, talking to these American adult men that I'd met on the internet and then got into a relationship with. It's not called a relationship when you're being groomed. I know this now as a 30-year-old. I didn't know that as a 14-year-old. I was staying up as late as I could to maintain these relationships and these friendships because my friends were all around the country and these were the only people who were having a nice, normal conversation with me. I was becoming sleep deprived and that was making the depression worse, which was making me more sensitive to all the bullying that was going on in my real life. I felt like the only people I could talk to were my online friends. I was that classic weird kid that just got bullied no matter what they did. If I was bullied for not wearing makeup, I would try and wear makeup and then I'd get bullied for wearing the makeup. If I dressed a certain way and they said, hey, stop that, whatever I wore next was also unacceptable. Facebook made it so there was no escape. And I say no escape, this is no escape for a 14-year-old. I know what should have happened is turn it off, read a book, do something else. I know that. But as a kid, you get sucked in. And so I would be bullied at school, I'd come home, I'd open Facebook, and I'd be bullied still at home. It pulls you in, because if you're not there seeing it happen in real time, you get made fun of for not knowing what was being said and not being there. But then, if you say something like, grow up, hey, stop that, you get made fun of that for that as well. There wasn't really a way to win. Turning off should have happened, didn't. At 14, it is too hard to walk away, so I was always there. I was glued to my phone. Right, my camera died, ignore any framing changes, never happened. Right, so you can see where the habit started. As I got older, the cyberbullying did stop, and the grooming stopped as well. You'll be pleased to hear. Obviously, this was before I figured out all of this stuff. Much to everyone's surprise, I actually started having a really good time in just life in general. Everything had sort of evened out. I was focusing on my studies, I was doing A-levels, applying to university, getting tattooed. People kind of liked my tattoos, which kind of helped, I think. And everyone just sort of like calmed down. Facebook was still used a lot, but it was much healthier. It was just me posting photos of my friends, posting memes. But then it was around this point where I began really struggling with chronic illness. I was living with chronic pain. We didn't really know why. Turns out it was ehlers-danlos syndrome. I'm gonna put a card up there. Yes. But that didn't come to fruition for a long time, but, you know, spoiler alert. But I was, just when you live with chronic illness or chronic pain and it's undiagnosed, it is not easy. I ended up isolating myself quite a lot, spending a lot of time in bed because it hurt to do anything else, which really did not help any of the mental health things. It is what it is. But I began to grow a small community of chronic illness friends. Now, my diagnostic journey was interesting. I ended up in a lot of Facebook groups for things that doctors suspected I had, but then it turned out I didn't have those, but I'd still made all these friends in this community and I related a lot to the symptoms. But I ended up making loads of Facebook friends from those groups, and we would just talk about chronic illness all the time, and it was very supportive and very good, but it didn't encourage me to put the phone down. And it was also at this point where I started seeing chronic illness influencers for the first time. There were like Facebook pages, like about the spoon theory, that went viral on Facebook initially. I think that's where I first saw it, and there were groups dedicated to being a spoonie. All I was doing was sitting in my bed, on my laptop, or on my phone, and being on Facebook. There was nothing else in my life. It was just pain and social media. And there were lots of pros and cons of this. It meant that I was isolated, but I didn't feel alone. And there were some excellent connections made. I'm still friends with a lot of them. But on the downside, there is a lot of woo-woo and a lot of conspiracy about chronic illness. But it was also here where I decided that I wanted to be an advocate for disabled people and chronically ill people and queer people My first step into activism was making a Facebook page about my life as a non-binary person back when I was like 17, because I was the first non-binary person a lot of people met. I think I was the first non-binary person at my school. Nobody really knew what it was. They still don't, but it's because they don't want to learn. But it was my first step into activism, and it sort of fed my activist career moving forwards. I had more friends living in my phone than I had living in my postcode. Then when I moved away to university, Facebook became the only convenient way to keep in touch with all my friends and to make new friends. So, you know, when you're in halls and you just like, oh hi, my name's Max. Oh, do you have Facebook? Yeah. Oh, I'll send you a message and we can go and do this again sometime. That kind of thing. I used it primarily to share photos and just chat shit, honestly. It's what you do, isn't it? And then Instagram happened. I joined Instagram in September of 2015. I was a little bit late to the party. I was sort of resistant. I didn't really want to do it because I was like, I can just share my photos on Facebook. But then everyone used Instagram as like their primary social media, so then I couldn't hang out with my friends, I couldn't share those experiences with them anymore, so I caved. And then that's when everything changed again. The ability to follow people without having to accept a friend request and to be able to just be more public, that made it so easy to build a chronic illness community, or just any community in general, to be fair. My community was what we would call chronic illness influencers, other people just living with chronic illness, gay people, tattooed people, and then the obvious pagans and scientists as well. And this completely changed my life. When I started using a wheelchair, it was comments on Instagram that gave me confidence. It was people that I'd met on Instagram and Facebook that helped me fund my first wheelchair. It gave me confidence in the form of likes and comments and follows, you know, all the real healthy kind. And then that just kind of set the tone, really, until about 2020 when TikTok happened. And I know TikTok was around longer than 2020, but 2020 was when I downloaded TikTok. It happened just as my unemployment started, so I had way too much time to kill, and I lost so much time to it. At first it was really empowering. I found gay TikTok and lesbian TikTok and I was like, wow, I should get an undercut, I should get nice shirts, and those were really affirming to me, and that was an overall net positive. But sinking so much time into it wasn't healthy. And I was an adult then, but I couldn't see it because we were all in this unique situation where nobody had to go out and go to work. We're actually prohibited from doing so. So having nothing else to do and filling that time with endless scrolling didn't feel like a bad thing. But now we come to the problem that has plagued me for the last 5 years, and I know I'm not the only one here. Short form content mixed with the complete inability to escape it. So TikTok was its own thing. You can uninstall TikTok and your phone goes back to how it was. But now Instagram is doing short form content. Facebook is also doing that same short form content. It's what's recommended to you over and over and over again. It's what everyone is sharing on their stories. All your friends are now posting their own short form content. It becomes an addiction. Just one more video. Oh, the next one should be good. Oh, this one was an ad. Oh, we'll just scroll one more. Oh, that was an ad too. Oh, we'll scroll on one more. Oh, that's AI. Oh, just one more. You just keep going. You can't put it down. I was already a prolific social media user, and now it was using tactics to draw me in. It was getting into my little dopamine receptors, and it was pulling me in a way that it hadn't done before. I had already dropped almost all of my hobbies. I did pick up a new hobby, which is making YouTube videos, but I stopped reading books. I stopped going on walks. I stopped researching things for fun. I've stopped so much I actually can't remember what my hobbies are. I used to say that I can play piano. I used to sit and play on my keyboard many hours a day, and then social media took over from that. So I've got a keyboard, it's over there. I haven't touched it in any time I've lived in this house, 2023, and that used to be such a big part of my life, and I traded it in for social media. I missed out on memories because I chose my phone over hanging out with friends. There was one time I remember my friend was having a birthday party, and I remember very specifically. She had a birthday party in a like a swimming pool that is part of a holiday park. So they had all the good stuff. They had the good slides. They had the little the current thing that you get in a water ring and you go around. I lied to them and said that I couldn't go swimming because I was on my period. I wasn't, because I wanted to sit on the side and play on my phone. There was some drama happening, my name had been mentioned, people were dragging me through the mud again, and I chose that over what looked like a really fun time with my friends in the pool. I chose that. I was a child, but I chose that. And that's not the only time I did that. The amount of times I've uploaded a video late because I chose to stay scrolling on my phone instead. And I mean, like, it's not the end of the world, I'm not monetized, nothing really happens, but it's something I committed to. It's something I enjoy. But I chose social media more. Most of my online friends had already moved offline too, so I wasn't even really talking to anyone anymore. I was just there, scrolling, 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 scrolling. Just endless scrolling, wishing I could stop, but not being able to. My screen time, disgusting. There's like whole weekends where I've had 14 hours of screen time on my phone with the TV on in the background, but definitely not watching it. My average screen time before I noticed it was a problem was like 8 hours a day. And these were like work days as well. This was using my phone at work, not all the time, still doing my job, waiting for the centrifuge to spin for 5 minutes, scrolling, scrolling, scrolling. Like 8 hours a day or more. Then I would, on my weekend, what are your plans for the weekend? Oh, I think I'm just gonna rest. My version of resting was scrolling on my phone. 10 plus hours a day. Really unhealthy. And I really tried to have, once I noticed it was a problem, I really tried to have the self-control to just not do it. But that's really hard. I set time limits on my phone, but I bypassed them. I set up downtime, but I bypassed it. I downloaded apps that would block all my social media, but I found my way around them. I turned my screen into black and white, but then I mapped it to an accessibility key so I could just turn it off and on whenever I wanted. So I bypassed it. I had absolutely zero self-control, and I still do. This isn't like a magical, I have recovered, here's how I did it story. This is part 1 of a 2-part video. So that sort of sums up my problem. And this is why it's a 2-parter, is because a lot of people are just not interested in that, and that's fine, but they want to know how to stop, which is the 2nd part coming. Don't worry, both parts will be up at the same time, give or take about an hour. But how am I going to fix this? That's the question of the hour. I've already started and I've made really good progress. My screen time is now down to like 4 hours a day, which still isn't great. I would love to have like 2 hours a day. I've got some really ingrained habits that are really proving hard to fix. But 4 hours a day compared to 8 hours a day is much, much better. And the stuff I'm using is much better than just doom scrolling. It's not 4 hours of doom scrolling, it's almost 0 doom scrolling, but it's still using social media. But also I still want to maintain like a presence on social media. Like, I really enjoy posting on Instagram. I just can't be on Instagram because it will continue to draw me in. How am I going to claw my life back from social media? Oh, what am I going to do? So, you know, like this video if you liked it, for the algorithm, I suppose. It does feel weird talking about coming off social media and then being like, but like my video, I'm aware. Drop any comments if you relate, or if you still don't relate, or you still don't understand. Maybe I can clear something up. Or if you have questions. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I do make videos about interesting stuff, like being allergic to cold, visual snow syndrome, why my glasses are orange, these are yellow, shh, being deaf, surprise, chronic illness, all of that stuff, all of that stuff. And there's a pagan altar over there, so all of that stuff too. Once you subscribe, ring that notification bell so you get notified every single time I post a new video. They go up whenever I feel like it.